So we've said that really life is about refining yourself. Get born and refine yourself. Become the greatest person you could become. And we said basically the key to this is your character traits, your middot. Improve your character traits. Because everything you want in your life you could have by improving your character traits. And what are the 5 things you want in your life? Authentic happiness, self-respect, good relationships, meaning and fulfillment, and good health. So I can guarantee you all 5 of them right now. Just work on your character traits. So that's all you have to do. Work on your character traits. So we have the whole Mussar movement. The Mussar movement is all about refining you as a person. Become the most refined, kind, healthy person that you can become. One of the great books of Mussar is called Orchot Tzadikim. We're learning it, the way of the Tzaddikim. We're just going through the introduction right now. And I'm just going to pick out some major important things in the introduction, because if I went through the introduction how I'd like to, we'd be on the introduction for the next 3 years. But my advisor suggested I don't do that. Okay. So here we go. It says here, Chamisha kochot yesh ba'adam. You have these 5 faculties, these 5 powers. And they are sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. You have these 5 powers. God gave you these 5 faculties. And what you have to do is you have to use them in order to refine yourself, because you could use them in a right way and you can use them in the wrong way. So your eyes, why do you have eyes? Does anyone know why you have eyes? Do you know why you have eyes? To see, correct. But not just to see. You have eyes to see other people's pain so that you can take action and go and help them. You have eyes to see the beauty of the creation, to look at the trees and the sky. Anyone on the way to yeshiva this morning just stopped and looked at the sky and the Jerusalem stone and the tree, and you're just like, wow, I've got here we go again, but my lemons are growing. I've got a lemon tree in my chatzer, in my courtyard, and I just every day I'm like, this is awesome. How did a piece of fruit come out of a piece of wood, and how did a piece of wood come out of a little seed with just some sunlight, water and minerals? It's amazing to me. So did you stop today? Did anyone pray this morning Shachris? Shachrit. In Shachrit, did you say Ma Rabu Ma'asecha Hashem Kulam B'chochma Asita? Did you say that? You did. If you said the Shachris, you did, which means how unbelievable is creation. Everything was created with such wisdom. Did you say that? Did you feel that? Or did you just say Marabu Ma'aseh Hashem or did you just look around? Did you look at your hand whilst you were saying that and say, wow, that's awesome. Hands are awesome. Eyes are amazing. It's just one cell of your body, any DNA, yeah, anything. Is anyone freaking out? Or no? It's Sunday morning, it's like, yeah, Sunday morning. Marabu Ma'asecha.
I was freaking out over an apple this morning.
Apple. There you go. You freak out over apples. So your eyes were made for you to see other people's pain. They were made to see the beauty of creation. They were made to learn Torah. They were made to learn and grow. So are you using your eyes for that? Or sometimes we use our eyes for things that our eyes weren't made for. We're looking at things that probably not the best. Now, very, very important in our spiritual and personal growth, no guilt, no shame. Don't feel like, oh yes, I'm so bad, I watched that. Don't do that. Just say, yes, now I do understand that I could use my eyesight in a more refined way. What I'm putting into my consciousness is affecting who I am as a person. So for me, I'll tell you, my biggest challenge, I've mentioned this a few times, is UFC. It's very difficult for me not to, and YouTube knows that, and it like pops up like, watch this. The people who are like boasting and showing off and then they get beaten. I find it very hard not to watch that. I find it's a huge struggle. But what is that? Do I really need to see half-naked men punching each other in the face and blood and stuff. Is that really doing anything that good for my consciousness? Not. So that's my big struggle. I'm doing pretty well, to be fair. But once in a while I'm just like, I gotta see just that one. And I justify it. I say, come on, I'm learning Torah all day, I'm teaching Torah, I'm putting on my tefillin, I love Shabbos, I'm being a good husband and father, I'm doing everything. Don't I deserve a little bit of half-naked men punching each other in the face? But I'm like, so I do justify it, but I don't think it's great for me. It's not the best thing. So now, instead, I watch nature. I try and, if I need that little flash of that, I watch nature. But then, even in my nature things, I watch lions fighting crocodiles. I still, because that's the most exciting bit. That's part of my niche. You know?
What do you watch?
Well, nature, but I tend to watch the fights in it, like hyena versus cobra, that type of stuff, or shark. I love watching sharks. Yeah.
Maybe it's not doing anything for you, but you enjoy it. So after a long day of praying 3 times and doing all the mitzvahs and
Yes, but
Torah, teaching Torah, you don't think you can sit down and just wind down and
yes, but I think there's a higher level of refinement. I don't think the Rosh Hashiva would do that. Now, I don't think I'm a bad person. I think I'm a great person. I've got my problems, I've got my stuff that I need to work on, but it's just not refined. The Chavetz Chaim wouldn't watch that. So it's just levels of refinement. I'm definitely not watching sex and violence in that way, but everyone's got to be on their level. You've got to know. And how much of that do you want? If you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei thinking about if your team is going to win, that's So watching sport once in a while, just because with your friends and having a beer, that's okay. But not when you actually now care, and then you'll be not nice to other people because they support a different team. That's where it gets a bit. So you always have to have the balance. So are you using your eyes for what they were made for? And your mouth and your everything. Just are you using these 5 senses? It says here, every single action you do involves at least one of these 5 senses. Every single action you do involves it. And there's nothing you ever do that doesn't use one of these 5 things. So therefore, we want to train them and refine them. Why did God give you hands? Hashem gave you hands to light Shabbos candles and to put tefillin and to help people and to lift people up and to act in the world. So are you using your hands? Because you could use your hands for fighting and use your hands for whatever, things that they're not meant to be used for. And you got your legs. Your legs were there to run to help people and to climb mountains and to go to shul in the morning. But maybe your legs are running to places that you shouldn't be going to. So without getting all neurotic and OCD and weird about this, you can just start thinking a little bit, am I using the gifts that God gave me for the purpose that God gave them to me for? That's it. And very, very slowly start refining how much you're using those things for what you're using them for. So if I give... Good morning. So if I give my children a gift and they're using it, then I want to give them more. If they're using it in the right way, if I buy my child a tennis racket and then he hits his sister with it, I'm taking the tennis racket away. But if he lends it to his sister, I'm like, great. I see that you're using what I gave you for the right purpose, so then I want to give you more. I want to, So we've got to be very, very clear that we want to be consciously using all our faculties for what they're given for. We're not animals. Then he goes on to say that we really got to get a balance. We've got to be balanced. Some people, and the Rambam speaks about this very famously. I'll read it in English. One man is wrathful and always angry, and another even-tempered and never angry. One man is exceedingly proud, another exceedingly humble. One man is lustful, his lust never being sated. Another is exceedingly pure-hearted, not desiring even the few things that the body needs. So we're not into major extremes. You're not meant to go and sit in a mountain and meditate for the rest of your life. So you really got to find a balance. Judaism's very, very into consistent balance. We're not into peak states and then crashing, peak states and crashing. We're into balance. So I'm consistently living on a higher level of consciousness. And then, of course, there's peak, like Shabbos is an amazing peak state. But then we want to take Shabbos into the week and keep that going. It's not peak state crash, peak state crash. We want to be very balanced. So we're not that into extremes. Among these traits, there are those possessed by a man from the beginning of his creation. So fine. He then goes on and says that we are created with traits. Some people are more prone to anger. And you can see it in kids. Literally, by the time a kid is 1 or 2, you can tell quite well their character traits. One's very chilled out, one's very wild, one's a bit depressed, one's a bit this. And you can really tell that you're born with a certain nature. And therefore, you have to refine and use your good nature, because you're born with a good nature. And you've got to get rid of your negative, bad nature. So this is what we said before. You can never use your nature as an excuse. You can't say, well, this is how God made me, man. God just made me an angry person. God made me a high anxiety person. You can't use that as an excuse. You can use it as an excuse for other people, by the way. If someone else is behaving badly, you can say, well, it's not their fault. Hashem just made them like that. And that's a very nice way to judge other people favorably. For you, you can understand it and you can accept that you have a challenge, but never say, well, this is just who I am. Never, ever, ever identify with your negative character traits. This is who I am. I am a high anxiety person, and that's it. I've got to live with that, and you've got to live with that. It's not true. Especially because on the spiritual level, we say you're not. That doesn't define you. None of your traits define you. So you've got to overcome your traits. And the other one is that you have a nurture. How you're grown, how you're raised. So you could be born with a very chilled out nature, but if your mum is completely over anxious the whole time, then that will bring anxiety onto you. So someone born with not an anxious nature can become an anxious person through their nurture. Once again, we say at some point in your life, you've got to say, okay, I'm sorry you had that childhood. Now do something about it. Overcome it. Never be a victim to your nature or your nurture. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying just get on with it. Go to therapy, go to healing, do what you need to do, but take responsibility. This book's very much about taking responsibility, not for your past, by the way, that's not your fault at all, but for your future. I'm taking responsibility for who I'm going to be. Then we also understand, he uses the mashal, the analogy of a recipe. When you're cooking, you need a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of this, a little bit. So too, you've got to know which ones of your character traits you should use when and how. So you have to have humility. You have to be humble, but you can't be so humble that you don't stand up for what's wrong or right. So you've got to know when to use which character trait. And just like pain and suffering and all of these bad things are a sickness of the body, middot your bad midas are just a disease. It's just a disease. Why is that so wonderful? Why is it wonderful that this book has just defined your bad character traits as a disease? Because it means there is a cure. Because it means it's not part of you. No one ever says that the disease is part of who I am. I have COVID and that's just part of me. I'm just going to live with, COVID is part of who I am. No, it's not. It's a disease. You should cure your disease. And we say this very, very deeply about your Yetzer Hara. Everything negative about you, we say is not part of you. You are only pure, you are only good, you're only a neshama, you're only good. And you have a disease called the Yetzer Hara and bad character traits, but you have a responsibility to cure the disease and don't act on the disease. Yes?
One, how do you really objectively define what those character traits are? Maybe you're blind to them. And then number two, and what about certain things like maybe that are more accepted in society today that are like a predisposition toward having an attraction to something that's not appropriate, maybe it's acceptance. It's how do you decide, like, oh, I was born that way versus this is something I can change.
Beautiful. So how do we identify what these traits are? There's always two answers to questions like this. Number one is self-awareness. If you're an honest human being, intellectually honest human being who's actually trying to grow, you're not going to try to deceive yourself. You're going to actually look deeply into yourself and say, what are these areas? How do you do that? You work out, what are my triggers? Like if you're getting jealous, if you're being very self-aware, and you realize, hold on, I get jealous often, or I look in the mirror a bit too much, I'm quite vain, or I really care what people think of my clothes, or so just having a bit of self-awareness, how you're interacting with other people and what thoughts you're having, that should be the first thing to highlight what you're dealing with. I get angry often, I get frustrated often, I get sad really often, I judge myself often, I put other people down often. So just become very aware of yourself. But don't let that make you feel bad. Because we said before, don't identify with the negative character traits. Really see yourself as a project, as an experiment. It's like, okay, wow, I'm actually very curiously looking into how I react in my relationships and in general, what's going on in my mind. And you should be very interested and say, wow, it's so interesting. I really am quite vain, actually. I do look in the mirror quite a lot, and I do really care what people think of what I look like, and I post pictures of me posing a lot, and I feel good about myself when people like my pictures and stuff. So self-awareness, that's the first key. The second one is having a mentor. I've got a very close friend, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Eid. And you've got to be very close friends to do this. Very, very, very soulmate brother friends. Before Rosh Hashanah, we sit down and we say to each other, what do you think I need to work on? Because I can take it from him. When he says, okay, I think you've got a bit of an ego and this, and I want that. So someone who's honestly working on themselves wants honest feedback. So either you need a Rebbe to say, look, I notice you're a bit like this. Or you need a very, 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 very close friend. But in order to do this in a healthy way, you have to be someone who can take feedback, not criticism. You don't want someone who's criticizing you and negative and putting you down. Don't take feedback from those people. You want someone who you know loves you and cares for you and says, look, I'm like anything, like a tennis coach. You got a tennis coach and he tells you your backhand's not very good, do it like this. And you don't get upset with your tennis coach for telling you your backhand's not good. So you need a life coach. So if you've got a life coach who knows he's not just criticizing and negative and putting you down because of his own pain and stuff, then you can accept what he says. Then in terms of some things that aren't clear, we don't define ourselves either by tendencies. I have a tendency towards anger. I have a tendency towards being attracted to this person. We also say my tendencies don't define me. And then I have to see, well, which ones should I go towards? I think might say this in the book. For example, it says some people are like bloodthirsty. They're just a bit violent. I'm starting to think I'm a bit there myself. So it says a very unrefined person who's violent is going to fight a lot. A more refined person is going to become a shochet, a ritual slaughterer. So he says, I do have this tendency of violence, so I'm going to use it, but to be a shochet. And it said the same tendency in an ultimately refined person, he'll be a moel. So he's still got that blood cutting whatever it is, but I've now used it for the right things. So your tendencies you have to just put in the light of Torah. So the Torah tells you which ones are okay to follow and which ones can be refined and which ones we have to learn to put aside. So alcoholism, for example. It's a proven medical, scientific fact that some people are born with an alcoholic tendency. They're more prone to alcoholism, maybe because of their parents and whatever. But we don't say, well, if you are, then you know, it's not your fault, you just have to go with it. We say, no, you're not allowed to get drunk. Did you know that, by the way? Halachically speaking, you're not allowed to get drunk, apart from on Purim. One day a year, but even Purim is not drunk. It's not like frat boy drunk.
Sounds like you can't tell whether they sit up and down.
Yes, but there's a difference. You can't, no. There's a different. It means you go to a very, 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 very high level of consciousness. It doesn't mean you throw up out of your nose and pass out in the bath. It's not. We'll get there. We'll get to Purim Torah. If you lose control when you're drunk, you're not allowed to get drunk on Purim. You have to get drunk on Purim, but as long as you can be very, very drunk, but not lose self-control. If you lose self-control, you're not allowed to get drunk, which most people mess up quite badly. Because you have to be a very, very refined spiritual master to be able to drink so much and not lose control. So that's the answer. Are your tendencies and your drives, physical, emotional tendencies and drives, in line with the Torah? If they're not, then they need to be worked with, controlled.
And that's somewhat interrelated with the negative traits that we treat like tendencies that we can work on and get rid of, versus the tendencies, which some of them may be in that category, but like you said, some of them may be okay to hold on to as long as you drive them right.
Yes. So I've got to see, can this drive and tendency be used in a holy way? Be a shochet or a mile. And if it can't, because there's no way to eat pig in a holy way, you just can't do it. So there are some things that are called asor, forbidden, which means they're locked. There's no way to use them in a holy way. So you just got to know which ones. And always have a guide. Always have a guide. Very, very important. I was talking with at Shabbos lunch yesterday. One of the reasons Jewish dating and marriages are much healthier is because we have a third person involved. There's a coach. And relationships are really difficult. Anyway, so every relationship needs a relationship coach. You need someone who's helping you and helping you make a decision. How do you decide who you want to marry? It's crazy. How do you decide? It's the most important decision in your life. How are you going to decide, especially if you're 19, 20 years old, 21 years old, you don't know yourself enough. You don't know anyone enough. And you're going to make the most important decision in your life? It's crazy. So you need a guidance in all of this stuff. Once again, I use the example again of tennis. You're not going to get good at tennis if you don't have a coach. So you must have a Rebbe. You need a Rebbe. I need a Rebbe. You have to have a Rebbe, a therapist, a father who you can go to, or someone. You need a guide. If you don't have a guide in life, you're not going to do very well in life. It's in every area. So, he says it here. Says it here. So when you are sick, you go to the doctor. That's what you do. So, how can the healing of soul sickness? Let them go to the wise, the healers of souls, who will heal them through their teachings. You gotta come. I'm a soul doctor. Come to me, children. I will heal your soul. So, there's two major problems, which you basically mentioned. There are people who they're not aware of their lackings and their faults. But hopefully the fact that you're sitting in the yeshiva on Sunday morning, taking notes, you're miles ahead of the average person of your age. Miles ahead. You're much more likely to have a good marriage and be a good father and be a happier person, just by the fact that you've chosen to come and sit and get wisdom. You should feel great about yourself every day that this is what you've decided to do with your life. When most of your friends are out running, chasing some physical pleasure, some material idea of what success is, and the truth is, you're going to have a more beautiful wife than your friends anyway, as well. And you're going to also have a nice house. You're going to have everything you want. You're going to have it all. It's amazing.
Is that a money back guarantee?
A money back? Yes, it is. The marriage, yes. The material stuff, you won't want it so much. You just won't be so driven by it anymore. You're like, I'd rather live in a small apartment in Jerusalem than have a huge mansion in America with cars. Maybe. If you value spirituality over physicality, then that's clear. For me, it was clear. As soon as I got to Israel, I was like, "This is where I'm a Jew. I'm in Israel." Like, no, but you'll never have a big house with a driveway and a yard. But I'd rather be in Jerusalem with a small place than a big house with a. You really think the people living in the big houses with the driveway and the yards and the stuff are happier than me? Don't think so. Even if they got a lemon tree. I appreciate my lemon tree more than they appreciate their Teslas. I'm not joking. They like their Teslas for 10 days. And then there's like, oh, he's also got the same one. Oh, God. He's got the same Tesla, the same color.
Unless you're given parnasa from God, and then you can have a nice house and use that to maybe host Jewish events and use it for...
Because Hashem, you should be blessed to have a huge house so you can host amazing Jewish events. I'm totally not against material at all. I just live in America now, Chicago, Denver, and I was hosted in huge, amazing houses with swimming pools and cars, and I like this, and they're doing really good stuff. They're amazing. They're amazing people, lovely, nice, healthy, wonderful people. I'm just not going to sell out on my spirituality to get that. I host lots of people too in my small house. I do.
Do you appreciate that stuff like you appreciate nature? Not to the same degree.
I think it's okay. Like, I would not say no to a big house with a garden.
Mm-hmm.
If you offered me $10 million today, I would take it very happily. I'd immediately give at least $8 million to tzedakah, immediately. And the $2 million, I'd get a nicer house with a big garden for my boys to play in. I wouldn't buy a nice car though, I'd feel embarrassed. I'm not joking, I would feel embarrassed driving a fancy car. Embarrassed, literally embarrassed. So I'd buy a car and I'd bash it up a bit. Literally embarrassed. It's like I'm driving down the street, it's like with like the wheels going up and a big like bass boom speakers like, hi Rabbi, I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? I couldn't do that. Al pishu chayshev tamid ma yaseh mechapes ma'aseh tov. Lo yasi kevan she'eno makir chesronot. So this person, he has no idea what he's looking for. He doesn't even recognize that there's anything wrong. So he's just walking around. V'yesh adam shu yodea hamidot haraot sheyesh bo. There are other people who they know what's not good about them. They're bad midas that they have. V'chashev letzed mehem le'echos b'midas tovus. And they say, I want to get over these bad character traits and get good ones. V'gam hu lo yasi kol yamav derech yashar. Even he doesn't succeed. Machmash shemit'atzel milechapes midat hatova karaui. Because it's difficult. It's really difficult. Being a great human being is not easy. It's not easy to be great. It's easier just to be a mediocre person, right? It's easy. But so that's why they don't succeed. There are some people who know what's wrong with them, but they just don't ever work on it, and they make excuses for themselves, and they're lazy, but those people aren't living great lives either. So really, we're going through maybe we'll do one more class on the introduction. I'm really trying to whip through this now. But our main takeaways from today are: be very, very aware of your nature and your nurture. Be aware of how you're using your eyes and your mouth and your ears and your hands and your leg. Am I using my body for what it was created for? And be prepared to put in the work, to become aware of what you need to work on, and be willing to put in the effort to overcome what you need, what's getting in your way. Tomorrow we're going to finish off the introduction, and then we're going to hit the first gate. We are speeding through this now. Which habit?